Hello and welcome to another episode of Interwoven from The Weave. I'm your host Adam Roxby, and just to remind you that this show is the voice of the North Essex startup community, and as usual we have three interesting conversations which shine a light on some interesting businesses in the region, how they work and what their aspirations are. I know you're going to get a lot from today's episode, so let's have a look at what's coming up in this episode. We start this episode with a quick spotlight on Ansel Trafford, who is an expert at helping customers tell their stories, and he tells James Cracknell about the importance of storytelling. We also have another spotlight on a Weave community member, Claire Gibson, who runs an interactive murder mystery business, not just having a good time but also sharpening your business skills. Our feature-length conversation this time is with Matt, who is an expert in marketing. He also has many other businesses under his belt and had a great conversation with James with lots of practical tips. So let's start this episode with the community spotlight featuring Ansel Trafford from Creative Insights, talking to our Director of Business Development, James Cracknell.
This is a chance and opportunity for our members to talk a little bit about what they're doing, what their business is, who their ideal customer might be, somebody that they want to actually reach out to, and the kind of support and work that they're perhaps doing with different organizations that can inform people and obviously, from the perspective of the community, show them how you could be of assistance to them and in what they're doing. So welcome, Ansel. If you'd just like to start out by just telling us a little bit about your business, who you are, and maybe link into the customers and who you're working with and that kind of thing.
Thanks, James. So I set up Creative Insights last year, and Creative Insights is a brand storytelling and content strategy service, content writing service. And I work very closely with Tom Steele at Charlie Mike. He's a web designer and graphic designer. And together we bring brands to life. So we help businesses and charities to rethink their content strategy, how they come across. And all of that work starts with a deep dive. So from my experience in marketing and advertising, I've always found that the conversations we have, like an interview, really help to uncover lots of useful information that we can use for campaigns and even for elevator pitches, helping people with the content for their website and just sort of thinking from a strategy point of view, what sort of keywords do we need to be including and embedding into the text, and what are their competitors using? So it's a very collaborative approach we take with our clients. We like to get to know people, and we really enjoy using our creative skills to make our clients look great, but come across really well with clear messages.
Fabulous. Just tell me a little bit about how storytelling became such an important part of your acknowledgement of the marketing journey and what people go in. And a little bit about how those stories that you like to tell, potentially if you took yourself on a journey of a customer, how would they engage in that storytelling? Because sometimes it's quite challenging for customers to think to themselves, well, we haven't got a story. We're just a business doing X, Y, Z, or we're just good, selling product to B or whatever. So it's quite hard for them to see maybe that there is a story to unfold. But why do you feel that storytelling is so important? And how do you get that storytelling journey out there?
It's a really good question for us all, because the one thing that does differentiate us from everyone else, regardless of what our businesses are offering, products or services, is the people and the stories that those people have to tell. And that's really what helps us to connect with each other out in this digital world. So by getting to know our clients and finding out what their motives are and what their interests are, we can help to tell that story that then helps their customers relate to them on an emotional level. And also have to acknowledge yourself, James, the work you've been doing through the Weave with Colby, through the Essex Business Accelerator course that you put on, that Tom and I did with you. Just completely changed the way I understood and thought about pitching and what that is. And yes, we're talking about our businesses, but we also have a job to connect with people. I think it was on week 4 of your course, only week 4. I put a post out in combination with Tom, Charlie Mike, and it brought in over £8,000 worth of business because I told my story. And so we're all learning together. And I think that's one of the wonderful things about the Weave community. It's a great chance for us all to share our knowledge and share what's working and share our stories, because ultimately the goal is the same, is to help each other do well in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, apart from, thank you very much for that shout out. That's very nice. And I think that's great. I mean, we try very hard to work with people to actually get them through that kind of clarity moment where they can see things differently from the perspective of their business, maybe the impact of what they're trying to create, the kind of outcomes they're doing. And I do believe storytelling is something which is humanistic. It's been with us from cave dwellers right the way through to modern day society. And I think maybe social media and the like has probably accentuated the ability to be able to actually tell that story. But what kind of mediums do you use? And are you managing their posting? Are you managing their content creation? Or are you sort of saying, this is what we believe is the strategy, and giving it them to actually follow?
The ideal for us is to go on the journey with the client through from a deep dive into their digital media. So the world has changed from when I was training in graphic design back in the 90s. Graphic design and marketing was very print orientated, and traditional media would be radio and TV. That game has changed. And now through social media, through the internet, and post-COVID as well, where many of us have gone online and started working remotely, our lives very much, whether we like it or not, and businesses are intertwined with the internet and digital media. So we work with clients on their websites. We help to clean up websites, rethink websites, streamline websites so that they become a more effective sales funnel, but also help people with on-page SEO. So we look at, for example, I'll be rewriting content. We've got a client and their website's going to go live very shortly. A lot of the work that we've done behind the scenes includes the SEO page titles, the SEO page descriptions, and the images people will see when they search for that company. So there's a lot of strategy behind what we do. And I think that's where the value of spending time with clients comes in. Yes, you could say, build me a website, and somebody could knock out a website for £500. It'll do a job like a digital brochure. Where Tom and I think, really leverage our skills is spending the time then thinking through, so what's the best strategy for this client, for their market, for their customers? What are their competitors doing, saying? What keywords are they using? With AI now, there are some very, very good bits of kit like Dib, which I use regularly now for my own website, my clients' websites, where you can look at the keywords that are being used. And it's not plagiarism, it's a fair playing field, but we're all competing for a very large pie. I think that the days of how many businesses in one town have gone. We're in a digital world now. Some of my clients are over in the United States, some of mine are national charities. So the playing field we all operate on now is, I would say, level, and the internet has allowed us to have a very big playing field to work in and to collaborate in. And I think that's the other thing that I've definitely learned through the time that I've spent with yourself, James, and the Weave community is collaborations are the most important strategic consideration for any business that wants to grow these days. The fact that Tom and I collaborate and we pull in other businesses, other skilled experts in creative areas in SEO, and Tom's using Fiverr to get people doing animated logos for his clients. You just get creative so that we can add even more value to our customers without the sort of crazy London prices that you used to have to pay to get really good quality creative work.
I agree. I think the internet is that open playing field. It's allowed people to go in there, but I think it's also made people aware that actually there has to be a selection of skills that you want to go into, but there's still an element of, how do I build and nurture that kind of the trust with those people and the like. And I think that's really important. And I think that's one key area that we're all very interested in. Brilliant. How can people find you? Where can they get hold of you? What's your website? And if you had a particular customer that was in your mind, that somebody that maybe you'd want to work with, can you kind of identify who that might be?
To get in touch, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So people search me up as Ansel Trafford, so as in Old Trafford, Ansel, ANSAL. Send me a connection request. I'm always up for new connections. My website address is creative-insights.co.uk. And if you'd like to email me at inspire@creative-insights.co.uk. In terms of ideal clients that we would love to work with, we're interested in working with disruptors and innovators and people who are changing the game in some way in their industries. You guys are the exciting people to work with, and that really gets our creative minds working because, we're looking to do something different that hasn't been done before. We work with business owners, we work with national charities, entrepreneurs, but I think the one thing that everyone's got in common that we work with, as well as being, really nice people to work with, is, we're all looking to do something to make things better for people, to improve people's situation, their lifestyles, their physical or emotional or financial positions. If you've got an interesting project and would like to talk with us about that, drop me a message and we'd love to talk.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, Ansel. And I hope we'll get you on the extended podcast where we can talk a bit more about your journey, how you managed to sort of kind of get into the world of the digital marketing and creative side of things. So that's something that we'll look forward to getting penciled in the future. All right.
Superb. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much, James. Really appreciate it.
No problem at all, Ansel. Take good care and have a good week. Speak soon.
Brilliant.
What a great way to start the episode. Thanks to Ansel there for sharing what it is he does and how being a part of the Weave community has helped him. I agree that I feel every business should be able to tell the story of what they do for their customers to start to have a relationship with you. Now, we move on to our second community spotlight, which is with Claire Gibson. If you like dastardly deeds, then stay tuned.
Welcome to our spotlight session at the Interwoven podcast. I'm absolutely delighted to invite Claire Gibson to come along and talk to us a little bit about what she's doing, her business, and her background, a little bit about that. Look and discuss a little bit about the customers and who she's looking for and the like. So, Claire, welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourself and your business, that'd be brilliant.
Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, I'm delighted to be here. I'm Claire Gibson. I am half of a two-woman business startup we launched last year in March, and our company is called Stage Frights Murder Mysteries. As it says, we make bespoke and, as we say, ready to scare mysteries and games. We have a variety of products which are all interlinked. We've basically created what my very, very artistic genius partner calls a gamiverse. We have a rural coastal parish, surprise, surprise, based on where I live, called Offingham. And yes, we both of us have a terrible penchant for bad puns, so you'll hear probably more of those going on. So anyway, here we have this little parish, which is Little Offingham, Great Offingham, and then the coastal piece, which is Offingham Mere. Fundamentally, we have created some places within Offingham. We've got Offingham Manor, which is a manor house and winery. And we also have, the coastal pub, seafront pub, which is the Dunham Inn. And we have a whole host of recurring characters, families, friends, etc. And so the idea is that, be it from the live events, which is perhaps the more typical murder mystery that people know, we also have a tabletop game called Dastardly Deals. And we also have icebreaker games, which are for groups, for more fast-paced, still sleuthing kind of games, and those go under the Cluedunit banner. We really have tried to create a universe which links together so that people will recognize the characters, the situations, the locations, but the games are designed so that you can play multiple times because the murderer is always chosen at random at the beginning. So even if you've played the same storyline multiple times, you never get the same outcome.
Excellent. So it's a kind of, there's almost an element of Cluedo in that kind of, so there's versatility of that kind of process, but obviously a lot more thought has gone into the world and the universe and the background and all the rest of it. So Who do you doing this for? Are you doing this for corporates, or are you doing this for individuals, groups? Who?
It can work. That's another thing that we've really plotted, excuse the pun, to get in there, that it has been tested by private individuals, groups, for parties, but also I have run it through some corporate friends for team building. I spent the last 20 plus years as a business coach and trainer. So a lot has been said over the past decade or so about the gamification of learning. Well, we prefer rather to talk about the learnification of gaming, because games are actually a very good way of, as we say in our strapline, we want to support people to communicate, collaborate, and connect. So that can be a professional corporate setting, as well as a family, friends, party setting.
When you say there's a board game, where can they get the board game? Can they buy the board game online, or?
They will be able to, yes. We're in the final stages of manufacture, if you like. We have also a little sideline, I must put in a plug. We are very fortunate to be collaborating with a new venture based in Clacton, so local to me, which is called Realms. It's people who have set up escape rooms, virtual reality, and oddly enough, axe throwing, but won't go there.
Yeah.
Interesting combination. However, what we're looking at, obviously, with great interest, is creating a virtual reality version of Murder Mysteries. And why not as well escape room? Because the plot line is sometimes, I've been told, I'm not an escape room person, but I've been told that sometimes the plot line can be a little bit thin. The clues are good, but they're not really tied up with anything. So that is, of course, what we're looking at, our murder mystery storytelling element. I'm very excited about that, because hopefully it will mean that if we've got the virtual reality and escape rooms going, we'll also be able to have a stock of the tabletop game, and somebody who's played live could very well take away a box to play at home with friends or wherever.
How long have you been working on this particular startup? Just tell us through about that.
Well, we actually got the idea just before lockdown, of course. We were starting, it came to me, don't ask me why. I was joining various networking groups because I'd got back here, didn't know anybody anymore. All my school friends had moved away many moons ago, like me. So networking seemed to be a good way to get both into the community and getting to know what was going on. So at one of them, which interestingly happened to be at a local winery, where they also do conference reception rooms, etc. I don't know how, it just popped into my mind that, murder mysteries would be a cool thing to do. And I asked the owner of the winery whether that would be something that she could possibly host. And she said, oh, absolutely, yes. And it just went on from there. So we were pretty much good to go. At that point, we were really only thinking about the live event, because that seemed to be the thing that everybody had top of mind. And then, of course, COVID. So live event wasn't going to happen. So we started thinking about other options for games. How can you do a game if it's not going to be live? We thought of digital, seemed to be a bit outside our area of expertise, but hey. But then we thought, okay, well, what about a board game or a tabletop game? The USP of that as well is that it's entirely card based. So the characters are on cards, but also instead of a board, you create your map of Offingham using a series of playing cards that you lay out on the table. Right. So we got that going, and then lockdown went on and on and on. Yeah. And the piggy bank got emptier and emptier and emptier. So when we came out of lockdown, I actually had to go and get a job. So I worked for a local welfare to work program. I'm a trained executive coach. So they were looking for people to do advisory roles, and I actually became their executive coach. It was so up until March last year. And I thought to myself, this bucket list project of stage frights, either I get off my backside and we do it, or it is going to be a deathbed regrets list, which I really don't want to have. So I bit the bullet, left the project, and we started up in earnest. oddly enough, as life happens, we thought we were going to start with the live events, possibly followed by the tabletop. But in fact, I was asked if I could come up with the icebreaker idea from a completely different context. And so at one of those 3 a.m. epiphanies, I woke up thinking, yes, we can do a card game and it's going to be Clue Done It. And we tested it. So the Clue Done It idea came forward, and basically you take the misery out of mingling that way.
I like that. Yeah, take the misery out of mingling. That's good. How can people reach out to you?
We have, at the moment, we do have a Facebook page, but we have a website in particular, which I would encourage people to go and look at, because it really showcases the amazing graphic artist's talent of my business partner. So that one you can get at stagefrights, plural, murder-mysteries.co.uk.
What made you join the Weave?
Again, part of the networking, I think it was actually somebody from FSB who recommended it. And mainly it was because one of the realizations I've come to is, though I have been self-employed since 2003, I've always done the kind of work, both corporate and also in international development, involving being part of a team, a peer team. And finding my tribe has been something which has been a bit lacking, despite the lovely networking opportunities. So I had a look at the Weave and I thought, yep, this is it. I'm going to join that.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed.
I really want to go along and test my detective skills. Also, I love the detail and the world building that has gone into this, as well as building the world out into other mediums as well. It's also great to hear how these games can go beyond just an enjoyable day out, but also help sharpen key skills like a knife. Our final conversation is the feature-length conversation with Matt from Get Digital and also BSIB, or Better Start in Business. Get your notebook ready, as there is a lot to take away from this one.
Welcome, Matthew Parkins, to our Interwoven podcast. We're absolutely delighted to have you here. I met Matthew down at the Innovation Centre, I suppose about 2 or 3 months ago. So it was a kind of a conversation. It was great to meet up. Matthew is really involved in business development within the region. He is a founder. He's a smart entrepreneur. He's an innovator himself and highly skilled and accomplished in that particular field. So it's been really good to have him on board. And then we can talk a little bit about his journey, how he got into what he's doing, and then ultimately we can then talk a little bit more about the BSIB project. So welcome, Matthew. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for that incredibly generous and warm introduction. I appreciate that very much.
No problem at all. It's all meant. So let's start out with where we came from and where we got to. In terms of how we arrived at this particular moment in time, just tell us a little bit about the journey, where you left school, what you did after that. Just tell us a little bit about yourself in that regard.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So actually, I've had quite I don't know whether it's a strange or interesting journey. Hopefully it's a little bit interesting at least. But I sort of left school, if I'm totally honest. I've always had the mindset that I was going to do something with myself, and something big, and something that's going to be really valuable, or at least, that's kind of the feeling that I had. But I've always been a bit of a, I posted quite a lot in school, and I didn't have the support of a lot of the teachers as well. Like, I'd probably consider myself a bit of a smart ass. I was always very polite, but if someone felt that they could be, talked down to me or anything like that, I didn't feel like that was very fair. So I had some discrepancies in school with some of the teachers that felt that way. But the ones that would treat you with respect, but I got on with like a house on fire, because they were good. They didn't feel they needed to talk down to you. So I got on really, really well. Left school. I actually didn't know what I was going to do when I left school, and I ended up just sort of getting into carpentry, and I did a carpentry course. And if I'm honest, I didn't really enjoy it very much. I did the first year, then the second year I didn't really show up very much. I wasn't very interested in it. I knew that it wasn't my passion, and then got offered a job at the Lemon Tree. I don't know if you know the Lemon Tree from back in the day, and I worked there as a chef for a year or so, and that was intense. Like, that was where I learned hard work. And when I say to you, the longest day I did there was 22 hours. Right. So I remember I woke up, I think it was 22. I woke up at 5 a.m, jumped straight in the car. We went and did an event, and then we went straight back to the restaurant, and then I finished at 2 a.m. So it was a full on day. Right. But the maddest thing is I loved it. It was such a fantastic day. I had a really, really great time. And then obviously working in the restaurant, I ended up going from carpentry to chefing. So I ended up getting into chefing, got quite good at that, enjoyed that. And I saw a lot of things in that. I saw a lot happen, and I started thinking, you know what, this is not a long-term thing. But in my head, I was like, but I enjoy cooking, so I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to set up a business, and I was like, right, what business I'm going to do? And having seen restaurants, that they're a liability, I was like, there's no way I'm setting up a restaurant with all of those costs. COVID hit, you imagine it, that would have been brutal, right? And I was like, okay, outside catering company, that's what I've got to do. So I actually started the process of setting an outside catering company up. I looked at people that could partner with me. That was the ball started rolling in those different directions. And then I started doing agency work, which was much better for me. Initially you get treated like an agency as an outsider, but because I've always had a team mentality, and I think that's followed me through everything that I do, because I'm such a believer in a team. We should all work together. That very, very quickly saw me success as an agency chef. I didn't need to be the best, but because I worked as a team, they welcomed me in. What ended up happening from my chefing career is I ended up taking on a full-time job, and I got into a really serious car accident one day on the way home. I nearly died. So I rolled the car, nearly died in this car accident, and they airlifted me to London. They're knocking on my mum's door, Mrs. White, you're going to have to come to London. They drive my mum to London in this car, 100 miles an hour to get to the London hospital. And they sort of wake me up, and they had to put me into a coma to get me back out, and they sort of wake me up. And actually, the funny side of it is, as I woke up, my family's all stood around me, and they're like, "Oh, they're, oh my God, are you okay?" Everyone's really upset, and I've obviously just come to, and as I come to, they were like, "We thought you were going to die," or everyone's really upset, and I'm drugged up, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, "Oh no, I can't die. I'm Superman." It's the first words that came out of my mouth, right? And essentially, I'm telling you the story because that was like one of those things that was a bit of a catalyst for me, right? So I had that accident, didn't really acknowledge it fully at that age. And I think it was only at a later stage I've really taken into consideration, actually, I really did nearly die. And then considering the accident, I had 2 weeks off, right? And I went straight back into work, ready to go. And they sacked me. Yeah. I was just really quite annoyed. And I thought, I've had a serious car accident. I've come back in 2 weeks after nearly dying. And the injuries I had were pretty gnarly. I have a pretty minging scar on my head. And I come back after 2 weeks, and they sacked me, and they were just looking for a reason to do it. And I found out that actually he's done that to other people, the person that owned the place. Other people had been off for something serious, and then he just got rid of them, right? And for me, that was it. I was like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not getting treated like this anymore. And so I left and then went into sales, found that I really enjoyed sales, did particularly well at it, from cold calling. I even did door to door. And that led me into more marketing, did marketing for a friend. And that essentially is what led me to opening up my first agency, which actually happened in COVID. Right. So opened up the agency in COVID. Obviously, this is the first business that I've owned. I've been a freelancer and all the rest of it for a long time. So it was a big learning curve. And actually, it was much more of a lifestyle for me than it was a business. So for me, it was, I want to make sure that I'm making enough money for me and my daughter. So she was with me most of the time at that point. So I needed to make sure that I had the money coming in, but I'd less than half what I was earning because I'd gone through COVID, and the foundational work that I'd done for the company I was working with was done. So they didn't need me anymore during COVID. So I was like, oh, okay. But I wasn't worried for some reason. Like, I got let go, had no business in the pipeline, nothing. Wasn't even remotely worried. I don't know what it was. Maybe I was delusional. But I just had this weird, I just felt like everything was going to be okay. Like, genuinely believed it to be true. And lo and behold, the most surreal thing happened is I got a phone call that same week from a client who wasn't a client at the time, but I'd been speaking to them for about 3 years, and I'd essentially just stayed in touch with them. And this was even when I was working for other people, because he was a really nice chap, and a couple of the other people that I'd met at events. And this is one thing that I would really say to people is, maintain relationships with all of these people. It doesn't take long to maintain that relationship. And this led to my first client, which actually paid me all of the money that I earned in the first three months. I didn't earn anything else in the first 3 months. It was less than half of what I was earning, but it was enough to get by. And I closed them on a retainer, but I literally would email them every few months, like, hey, how are you? I've noticed this on your social media. Really love what you're doing. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And then I wouldn't get a reply. And that might happen a few times. And then what I would do is I would send them an email and say, oh, look, I've not heard anything from you. I'm not looking to be a pest. Just let me know if you want me to stop emailing you. And every time I would send something like that, I would get an email back and they would say, no, Matt, like, please don't stop emailing us. We do want to work with you. It's just we've got a lot going on at the moment. And as I say, the same week that I lost where I was working, he phoned me and said, Matt, we need to work together. Right. And that was it. And that set me off with Get Digital. That allowed me to work with him and start building my experience with that part of it. And that's been really, really good. But as I say, looking at the other side of it, that's been my journey to here. And I've always been obsessed with marketing and different technologies and ways to optimize things. And I've set up lots of small businesses and I've worked with a lot of people setting up small businesses. So a passion for me has always been helping people go from zero to, getting somewhere where they want to be. And that's where BSIB kind of sparked. And for me now being able to do that, because it's if I'm honest, it's a low margin, right? But it's really high value to the people there. And I've learned a lot, right? And what it's allowed me to do this journey is it's allowed me to figure out a process where I can take a business that's not even established, for example, and give them all of the assets that they need to look like a well-established business for peanuts compared to what it would have been. Like what you would have had to pay would have been thousands of pounds for all of this, because we're talking all of your brand assets, social media templates, a brand Bible, the whole lot. I can do, because of the processes that we've got and the tools that we use, we can develop this, starting at £550, right? And that's crazy. You would never have been able to get that before. And that's something I've been wanting to do for a while. And actually recently, that's what I've been able to do. So we've been working really, really hard on BSIB. We've got a partnership with Colby. I say my biggest strength in everything that I've done, and the most important thing in my opinion, is relationships. And that's been my biggest strength. And I've been able to build those. I know it's been an incredibly long journey to get from there to here that I've been waffling on, and hopefully it's been interesting for you and interesting for anybody that's listening. But I think that it's an important part of the journey, because every single aspect of that, down from my chefing through to the marketing, through to the sales, business development, all of that has given me the experience that I've needed to develop this package, right? To show that actually, this is what you can do. And then also the team aspect of it, because there's always this one team against the other. And I saw that as a chef, the hard work, I saw that as a chef, the marketing, the business development, both of those together have given me some really unique ways to view a strategy as a business, like to look at how you can incorporate that and what will be most valuable to you. And I genuinely believe this has allowed me to understand, most businesses, they don't need to spend any money on marketing until they hit six figures in most cases, because you can look at things like partnerships, things that are lower cost, and they'll generate you business much more quickly, right? And your local, who's nearby to you, right? So that's kind of where we're at. And I know that I've waffled on, James, so hopefully that's answered your question.
That's no problem at all. That's great. No, it's a really interesting journey. Really interesting. I just want to go back, because you mentioned it on a number of different occasions about partnerships and about sort of your philosophy around that, whatever. What sort of advice would you give somebody about how to start thinking about partnerships? Is there a strategy that you would tell people about, or you would guide people into doing it? What's your approach and your idea around it?
It's a tough question to answer because of the way that I'm thinking, right? And the reason it's tough is because there's a few aspects of it, because there's the aspect of, right, where to find the right people to reach out to. That's one part of it for me, right? And that's an important part of it. But the other part of it I think is important to remember is, if you're very early and you're not into, you haven't done this much, like the key thing is go out and build as many bloody relationships as you can, right? Even if they might not feel like the right people, they might know somebody, right? But the key is, right, the real key is do more listening than you do talking, right? That's one of the key aspects of it too, and sometimes it can feel like you need to say something in that situation, but try your best to just really, ask your questions and really listen to what that person is saying, and then react based on those conversations, because that will help start build that relationship with that person. Don't have the goal to sell to someone. That's the worst thing you can do, right? And the reason, if you just think, I'm here to sell to these people, that's the worst thing you can do. And I genuinely stand by that. Who knows what my opinion might be in 10 years' time, but generally, from my experience and what's served me so well, is I do not go into a conversation with anyone trying to sell with the mindset of selling them. I go into that conversation with the genuine goal of building a good relationship with them and seeing if I can help them in that conversation. if I can give someone a little nugget of knowledge based on what they've told me, that they go away and go, wow, this was really helpful, that's really good for me. Like, whether or not we do any business, my goal is to build a good relationship with that person and give them something of value. And they walk away from that conversation, feeling better about themselves, or they walk away from that conversation with a piece of knowledge that they didn't have before that helps them in their life, right? Leave them better than you first met them, right? Same as leave the world a better place than when you came to it. See, leave that person more knowledgeable. That's the goal. Never have the goal, because the problem is, if you go in with that selling mindset, right, that you don't listen to people as well, right, you don't take things on board, you put too much pressure on yourself, right, and then the problem comes is when the no comes, if that's what you're trying to do, you know, one or two things is going to happen. You're either resilient and you don't care because you know that it's a numbers game, and I get that, but you're, in the long term, I think you personally, I don't feel like you do as well. If you're not as resilient, every no is just a bit of a kick and it hurts. But if you go in with the mindset of trying to build a relationship with that person, it's very rare is the occasion that you can't have some sort of connection with them. And when you do that, you feel much more fulfilled, you've enjoyed it more, you've not put pressure on yourself, and it's been a better experience. And whether or not they turn into a client, you feel better, they're uplifted, you're uplifted, right? So that's kind of the thought process there. So it's always go in with that mindset, that mentality of building that relationship, and don't leave them alone, right? If you find someone that you feel that you can help, you genuinely believe that you can help them with what it is that you do, and you feel that they could become a good client and it's a good fit, don't leave them alone. If you've got their email address, right, if they haven't told you to do one, right, then don't worry about it. Message them and talk to them and try and spark up a conversation, but don't constantly sell. Exactly as I said I did with my other client, I would say to them, right, hey, I've noticed that you've done this on your socials. This is really, really cool. I love what you've done here. Have you thought about this? Or if I saw a resource that I thought they would find valuable, I'd message them. I'd go, hey, look, I just found this. I think this is going to be really good for you. You should have a read. So let me know what you think, because you're then being so much more genuine. And I say to people, and I've said this a lot in the last few months, is like, if you looked at my close rate, right, in terms of business that I close, if you looked at my close rate in year one, it's shocking, right? Realistically, it's shocking. I'd speak to quite a lot of people, but if you look at my close rate in year 3 and 4, it's outrageously good. Because those people I spoke to in year one, I still maintain a relationship with them. The people that I want to get business from, I maintain a relationship with them, and I give them value. I give them value. I give them value. I give them value. Right. And there's that thing. There's a thing called reciprocity. When you give and give and give and give and give, people feel like they want to give back as well, and they trust you more, so they're more likely to come to you. Right. So my close rate in years 3 and 4 have been amazing. So I'm now in year 3 or 4 in Get Digital, and I'm seeing a huge amount of business come through now because of it. So where I was kind of a lifestyle business in years 1 and 2 for Get Digital, now in years 3 and 4, all of that work that I'd done there just to maintain relationships with people is coming to light now, and I'm just having things fall into place because I've maintained those relationships. That has been what's most valuable to me. So when it comes to partnerships, and partnerships have been a big reason that I've had business come through. When it comes to partnerships, go in with the mindset, learn how to build relationships, get that relationship building muscle really strong, right? And then you want to be able to think, okay, who's good for me? Who delivers services to the same people that I do, but they don't deliver what I deliver? And a really great example is, as a marketing agency, right? If there's a company that builds websites, but they don't do marketing, that's a really great opportunity to spark a relationship with. And equally, a lot of I've got one partner that's passed me a lot of business, and they build websites, but their websites are like, £100,000 upwards. They're very, very expensive websites. They're very, very advanced. They're, things that only the very top elite businesses need, right? Because they're tendering for projects for £500,000 up, right? Excuse me. So they don't need small websites. So whenever they get someone come through for a website that's like £10,000 or £15,000, well, they send it to us because they're like, Matt, we don't, this isn't one for us. We'd love for you to take care of it. And all of their old clients, they don't do a lot of that stuff now, and they're passing those through to us. And that has been really valuable. So because I built that relationship, and that person, imagine it, that relationship came from when I worked somewhere else. I worked at a different company. This was the company I worked for prior to starting Get Digital. I worked for them, right? And I was given the task of developing a new part of their website. So I phoned up a few agencies, and I was referred to one agency in particular, phoned them, and then started talking to this person. And I maintained that relationship with them for several years. And then off we go. I let them know, oh, by the way, I've started my own agency now. It'd be great to have a chat with you. And I passed them a client, right? And then after that, we started talking, and we ended up with clients from them. So that's what it is. So that's sort of where it led to. So you kind of come up with people that service the same sort of people that you do, but they don't do exactly what you do. And then you want to figure out a reason, like, well, if you're approaching from cold, you need to think of why is it would they want to talk to you? Like, why would they want to have that conversation with you? What can you give them that's going to make them want to have that conversation with you? Because I find conversation with partners are much easier than conversations with direct to consumer in particular, because they're usually a bit warmer. B2B is often a bit warmer as well, business to business for anybody listening there. And I'd spark that conversation and see how you can help them, right? And a lot of businesses, when they're genuine and they love to help their customers, they are looking for a solution that's going to help them. And if they can give them something of more value, and they can have faith in you and trust that you can deliver, because that's the key there. You need to be able to prove that you can deliver, then they'll be able to pass business through to you, right? And you want to talk to multiple of those as well, right? So that's kind of my thought process in partnerships.
So in terms of when you've got an array of contacts and you've got that area, how are you organising that so that you're not leaving people out? What processes are you bringing in that could help other people think through that?
Yeah, no, I love that you've asked that question as well, because it's often something that's overlooked in most businesses. It's how you manage your clients, your customers, but also how you manage your partners and other people that are involved in the business, because they're different, they're different types of people. They need different types of communication and different amounts of it. So we use a CRM, we use a client relationship management tool, and there are loads of them out there and lots of different ways to do it depending on your budget. We've just started a new one. So we're just starting with a new one that we partner with, that we're rolling out as well, that we're testing at the moment, but it encompasses everything, which is like website, but also encompasses, managing the customers and all the rest of it. But there's HubSpot, there's other simpler tools as well that you can use, and even some project management tools are quite good. But the key is, what you need to do is have them laid out in a way that makes sense to you. So if you've got all of their contact information, and then just take some notes on every single one of the calls, because same as clients and customers and partners, realistically, we can only really remember so much information, and they reckon that you can only maintain a relationship with a maximum of 150 people, right? So as soon as you go above that, then obviously it starts to dwindle. And not only that, when you start to grow your business, you want other people to be able to pick up where you left off quite easily. And generally, partners, they don't need a huge amount of attention, right? It's just a case of getting them into the CRM, whatever tool that you use, having the notes on them, and then just setting a simple reminder that says, look, get in touch with them. For me, it's been quite good because, I've been doing it for so long that it's just natural for me, because they've become very good relationships for me in the most part. I pick up my phone and I drop them a call. Hey, how are you? Let's go grab lunch. Let's go grab some dinner. Let's keep that relationship going. I send hampers out to my partners as well, just to sort of maintain that relationship, let them know that I'm really grateful for our relationship and stuff like that. So it's gotten quite simple for me. But as you build on that, if you haven't got some sort of client relationship management tool, or if that's not your strong point, then you will fall, because communication is essential. And if you don't communicate with people, then you're going to fall down. So if they pass you a client, you bloody well make sure to tell them every effing step of the way, to the point where it might annoy them a little bit. You tell them every single tiny thing that's happened. And I do that with the clients that they put over. And the same with these ones from BSIB, from Colby. Colby has got an extensive amount of information about my conversations that I've had, because they need to know the quality of service that we're delivering. They need to have faith in what we can do. And it's the same for partners. That's how you get more business from them, by showing them how good you are at delivering that service. And they don't see that unless you make them see that, right? So you send them the communications, you invite them into your CRM tool for those specific contacts, so they can see the communication there, right? That's what they need to know. Yeah. So you send them updates and you say, hey, this is what's happening with the person that you pull through. They're really loving it. This is where they are. This is where they're going to be in a month or two. That's what they want to see. And once you've delivered that, it becomes much easier to build a real relationship with that person, because they trust what you're doing. And it's not you trying to build a relationship to get business. It's you've shown that you're really good. And now, just as a byproduct of that, you become friends. Right. And that's what I've tend to find. And that's, so that's what we've done. So we delivered it. So in answer to manage it, some sort of client relationship management tool is absolutely essential. And even if you just bullet point what you've got, I've started using a really cool meeting recorder as well, which transcribes everything, and it creates a chat, and you can ask the chat what happened in the conversation. It's pretty cool. Some of the stuff that you can do now, it's easier than ever, right? To be able to keep up with it all. And then you just create automations. You just make sure that, right, if I haven't spoken to that person in 3 months, I get a reminder that kicks me up the backside to go and arrange dinner or lunch or something with that person, so that they know that I still exist and that I still care and that I still want to talk to them.
I love that. And I think that the use of technology, whether it's, a CRM system or whether it's AI that does the note taking and does the various things that keeps you informed about that, is essential as we're growing and as we're developing the business and what we're doing. But I was also interested there that when you mentioned that you take it offline as well, that there is a face-to-face element to your approach to that. You see that as a kind of a crucial element of your own partnership building, is getting it offline and making it as human and as face-to-face as possible.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, right, James? Honestly, I don't care how far or futuristic we get. I am obsessed with marketing technology. I love AI. I think it's going to be amazing. And I think if we educate ourselves on it, it could be a beautiful thing that helps the whole world. I genuinely believe that if it's used in the right way, more small businesses will get to a point of sustained income where they can do what they want to do, and then we'll have lots of pockets of smaller businesses that then help each other feed it. I think all of that's going to happen, and AI is an essential piece. It's going to be great, right? But all of that aside, the relationships that you build with people are stronger when you meet them in person, right? To prove that you are real. You know, I made the joke, I went and met a client who's actually one of our clients. They are an AI tool. That's what they do. And then we meet, we shake hands, we have a hug and all the rest of it. And they're like, oh, you're real. You know, you're not AI. We make the joke about that because obviously with everything that's happening, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But that meeting in person, the shaking hands, if they're a hugger and they want to hug you, great. You know, however it is that you meet that person, that physical touch, that physical presence makes a huge difference and strengthens the relationship so much. So when I came to meet you, we'd met in person. Had we not done that, right, our relationship would not be as strong as it is, because we've met in person, we've shaked hands, and you know that I'm a real person. You can see the enthusiasm and the energy that I bring. That comes across on videos, kind of, but it's not the same as being in person, is it? And that's where the difference is. And when someone can see that passion for what you do in person, makes a huge difference, and it strengthens the relationship tenfold.
I agree. And I think as AI develops and as technologies develop and all the rest of it, I think there is an essential area of leadership which is about that human touch, the softer skills that need to be honed and developed, and the team working environment. How many people have you got working with you directly, indirectly, or that kind of thing during the course of a week?
Yeah, so essentially we've got 3 developers part-time, and I've got 2 designers that I work with. I've got another designer that does consultation for us as well. And then I have 2 sort of junior people that help take care of not just my stuff, but some of the stuff that I do for my clients. Generally, they're part-time, and we've just brought on a new partner for Get Digital, and he's going to be heading up the marketing division, right? And then we have another handful of consultants that we tend to go to when work increases enough. We'll have them there because I know the quality of the work that they deliver, and I know that I'm going to get what it is that I need from those people at that time, which is a really great way for us to do it, because it allows us to not have those liabilities of constant, you know, if I employed every single one of those people, I know I've got to make that cut, right? Whereas for us, it's worked really well because we can expand. And that's what we're doing at the moment. We're in that growth stage. And it's taken us longer than a lot of other businesses because, as I say, I wasn't focused on that. I was focused on my daughter. I was focused on my personal life. And literally in the last 6 months is when we're looking at growth. At any one time, you know, I've got 4 or 5 people working on one project, and then we've got multiple projects working at the same time as well. Right. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. And to be honest, they're all pretty much remote. You know, because I've got my advertising team that I'd actually forgotten to mention as well, because he runs the Google ads for us from that side of things. It's very good to have people that are self-sufficient. And actually, a lot of the people that I've chosen, I can put the project together, project manage it, but they run with it, right? And I don't need to be on top of them all the time. And that's the key for me, is I've been able to go, right, I know that they can deliver. I can give them the brief, touch base with them every couple of days to make sure that it's on track. And then they'll tell me what's done. And then I can feed that back to our clients.
And how do you use technology to stay connected to your wider team?
So I've got a couple of different tools. We use ClickUp, which is our primary project management tool, right? And that allows people to submit forms. So if there's something they want to change on the website, they can do that. And any project me and my team are working on, at any time we can comment on it, we can attach files, we can do all of these different things from directly within this project. And what that does is it reduces the amount of time that we need to meet up. Even with clients, generally we don't need to have many phone calls, because we go, right, here's the kickoff phone call. I'm going to get your statement of work together. We're going to agree that statement of work. We might need one more phone call just to confirm everything there. And then once you've confirmed, off we go. Right. So one project we're working on is we're taking their website and we're redeveloping it on a new platform. I've just got to confirm their new sitemap with them, and then we'll do it and it will get done. Right. And then we just send them the designs for the new pages, and we can share that on this project management platform. They review, they give us the green light. And then one that I've just bought now, which actually the timing of it couldn't be any better, I've just bought this new tool. It's and it's essentially you put the link into the website that you've built, it pulls that in, and then you give that to a client, and they've got a live website that they can see within this platform, and they can do it on mobile and all different screen sizes, and then they can click on different areas of the website and leave comments, which turn into tasks for my team to deliver. So they do that, so they do that, and then it's automatically assigned to my development team, and they just take care of it, and then I review it, right? So that whole process is just seamless. Literally one that I've just bought. There are other tools out there that do a similar thing, but again, lifetime license. I've just bought that to this one, and it's just worked brilliantly. Couldn't have come at a better time. So they're doing all of that. So whenever I build a website, we give them the links, put it into this tool, and they go and leave all their feedback. My team takes care of it. It's an absolute dream.
Yeah, they loved it. Yeah, we use AppSumo a lot for our lifetime licenses, and
yes, that's what I use. Yeah.
So we've got one which is our kind of project management stuff is done on Notion. That's the one we use, and then we've got Slack where we do an awful lot more of the communication side of things, and then we've got a system called Cast Magic, which does a lot of podcast remodeling. So I think, like you say, I think investing a bit of time into your technology and thinking and using things like AppSumo and stuff like that really does help in that regard. You've got two very clear areas. You've got the best start in business, the BSIB work, which is this business development side of things, working with micro businesses, really bringing almost a suite of outcomes to them that they really, that gets them established and gets them working, and which is really valuable. And then you've got I want to get digital, and the two elements of this. So how do you manage your time between the two projects? And if you were to cast yourself forward into, let's say, 5 years' time, which element of these two areas are you mostly working?
Yeah, no, I love that question. So actually, funnily enough, I've got three areas that I'm focused on at the moment, and I'll break down exactly how that's working for us. So Get Digital was my initial business because the margins were good enough for me to continue and actually earn enough money, right? And the challenge with BSRB is because the margins are quite slow and there's a lot of additional work that needs to go into it. It's a hard one to start up when you don't have a lot of money. So that was the challenge with BSRB. So Get Digital got me into this initial position, which has allowed me enough money to comfortably go, right, now we can look at BSRB and what BSRB can do, because it's about getting lots of people through the door, helping lots of people with, getting to that stage, because the margins are lower, right? So I needed to be in a position of strength to do that. So Get Digital is now likely going to niche into something like it's likely going to niche into SaaS. And I've just brought on a new partner, and he's going to be heading up the digital marketing side of things. But I can see him essentially taking the lead for Get Digital. Once I sort of show him how the web development side works, he can kind of manage that, and then we're going to hire in for Get Digital, and Get Digital is going to start growing itself. So I see that my involvement is going to be more of board level for Get Digital over time, because I'm going to sort of dip in and make sure that everything's still on track. These guys that we bring in are very, very experienced, and that's the key. We bring people in that know what they're doing, and then I can feel comfortable that I can go, right, I'm still here, so that I jump into calls when needed and I can help manage things when needed. But generally, I'm not going to be spending as much time on Get Digital. That's going to go off and continue to grow with my help and with my guidance, but the implementation is going to be done by the team that I've built for Get Digital. And that's something that we've let go. And I know a lot of people say that it can be hard to let go, but I think I've been fortunate in the sense where I know that I've got good people there, and letting go is a bit easier. And I know that they're always going to come back to me and have the guidance of, as I say, with the unique experience I have, it's helped us develop that business, right? So Get Digital, I'm probably going to sort of step away from a little bit, but still be there tentatively. And then the two areas of focus that I'm going into at the moment is obviously Best Start in Business is going to be a big focus. That's going to be a SaaS product at some point. So we're building that out to be a SaaS product that we can deliver to people that will encompass essentially all of the things that people need, your CRM, your web development, and then obviously documentation that you might need, and then obviously training and all of these other bits and bobs that they're going to have to help them get from $0 to $5,000 a month is kind of what we're thinking is a good balance there. So we're going to level the playing field for them. We get you from $0 to $5,000 a month. Once you hit $5,000 a month, we give you the resources to the next steps. But that needs to be a SaaS product to become viable, which is what we're working towards. So actually, we're probably going to go for a round of investment this quarter. So I'm getting a few bits together. So we're going to go for investment in Q1, raise what we need for that, which will allow me to develop a team. And the other area of really like a lot of focus for me at the moment, and this is for me in particular based on my genuine interests, but also the way I see the world going, is we've just set up a new one called the AI Guys, and it's still very much in beta stage. I let my clients from Get Digital know that it's something that we were developing, and most of them were very interested in it. But essentially, in a nutshell, what we want to do is we want to give everyone we work with 5 hours of their life back every single week. That's what we want to be able to do. And I think that's the deliverable that we're going to give. And then over time, I can measure that. And then the 5 hours they get back, we go, what did you spend that doing? And if it's income generating tasks, well, if your hourly rate's £50 an hour, I know that I've saved you that much per week, which is this much per year. And then you've brought on that much more business. So you can validate the return on investment there as well. And then we use AI and automation to deliver that, right? And while doing that, the really fun thing I've experienced with the first client that's come over to us on that, he wanted the full whack. We've developed this for him, and while doing it, we've realized that it goes hand in hand with a higher return on investment, because with automation and with these other tools and using WhatsApp automation, things like that, he's seeing a higher conversion rate that's going to start happening as well. So not only is he getting 5 hours of his life back every week, and his team gets 5 hours of their life back every week that they can use doing better things and building stronger relationships and focusing on income generating tasks, they're also seeing a higher conversion rate because they can pay more attention to each individual lead. If you've got 10,000 people on the list, you can't keep in touch with them by yourself. But with WhatsApp automation, WhatsApp being a very, very big player now, that's going to start to come off. So that's one of the things in terms of my time implementing. I'm going to be doing the AI guys in terms of implementation, because that's where I've got a good amount of knowledge and understanding. And once I've developed how that looks, then I can bring people in to do that. And in terms of building, I'm going to be a part of building Best Start in Business, choosing the team who then implement, right? And that would be taking care of that, developing the tool, right? So that's going to be where I see a lot of my time going into. But as I do that, my goal is always to build a team that can take care of most of that work, which will allow me to still have a role in each one of those businesses. Because I know that if I don't focus all of my energy onto it, it's going to be much harder to get it to a successful point. BSIB is going to be very much building the right team, helping them build that tool, putting that tool out to the masses, and then seeing how that grows, because I can see that being an incredible SaaS tool that helps. So our big goal for BSIB is I want to help 1 million businesses get to a point of sustained growth, right? So that they actually get to a point of £5,000 a month. And then if they go further, great. We want to give them the tools to do that. So 1 million successful businesses, success in their own eyes, right? And then with the AI guys, the goal is I want to give back 1 billion hours. So I want to give people back 1 billion hours of their lives over the time of that company being set up. So yeah, so that's kind of the thoughts. And I've shared that with you because it's great. Those goals are what drive those businesses forward. And what I know, that's why I know that they're in a good place to get to where they want to be.
And I think that if you're going for funding, then I think most investors want focus on that project because that's where the money's going and they want to see it. There's a lot of synergy that's created between each and all of those particular areas. And eventually you'll probably find that they'll synthesize into a natural environment where they all interrelate and interlink with each other.
Yeah, and I think I love that you said that because actually it's so true. Everything that we've got from Get Digital in terms of what I've learned, all of that, developing a brand and getting it done really quickly and setting up all of these different parts of a business, a lot of that come from Get Digital and being able to do it at pace with using tools to be able to do it at a lower cost with specific processes. That's been fed into BSIB. And then the other side of it is now I'm so focused on the AI guys, and there's a lot of stuff going through there as well because I've only got the one client going through it at the moment because I don't want more than that. I don't want to overdo it. I want to get this client right, to build those processes out so that other people can take it on as well. But everything I'm taking on from there feeds into BSIB. So both Get Digital and the AI guys both feed into BSIB because what that then allows me to do is create even more advanced tools and packages and workflows that benefit everybody that comes through that platform. So all of these small and micro businesses, I can empower them with these tools that they didn't even know existed, keep it very, very simple, and then they can do the work of 10 people, right? So more businesses will get to a point where they can employ people.
The bit that interests us as well, which is getting people through that particular barrier of employability. So in other words, we get to that point where we're actually creating quality jobs beyond the current areas. When we look at Colchester or North Essex or whatever, there are areas where you just know that there is untapped human resource and human skills. And if we can just break the back of the limiting factors around that, then we can create quality jobs and actually make a real difference to the future generations that come through. So your daughter gets the opportunity to stay in the region and get a quality job, as opposed to having to transfer to Cambridge, London, or wherever just to get that opportunity. You've spoken about giving people back 1 billion hours. And is it an API or an application that sits within the businesses that creates this? Or is there something additional that you're looking at from the point of view of using AI technology? Because I think we're only at the start of AI. We've got to think beyond that particular scope. So again, I'm quite interested from a future perspective where you see that kind of the AI technology playing that particular role and how it's going to work.
Yeah, so I think at the moment, exactly as you said there, we are at the very, very beginning of it all. You know, what AI is capable of now versus just 6 months ago is just outrageous. You know, some of the tools that I'm seeing coming out now are bonkers. And we're very big on that, right? So at the moment, so the AI guys is like a really high level consultation service where we bring the right tools for those people. And one of the bits of advice that I gave to someone very recently, and they were really pleased to receive it, which was great, on the BSIB platform was, well, what we need to do as a company is we need to think, right, what are our processes? What do we do day to day? And then find tools to help us with those processes rather than looking around for tools that do all these cool fancy things, but actually you don't need half of them. What do you need, right? So that's what we do. So AI guys, as it stands, is a very high level consultation. So we would come in, myself, and then soon as I bring my team in with their understandings of it, and I would speak in detail with the company that I'm speaking with. You know, I'd find out all of their nuances, what they're doing, types of tasks that they do that are day to day. And then what we tend to try and do is shadow them. So we'll shadow them, we'll shadow some of their team, we'll get a feel for the tools that they use, we'll get a feel for some of the repetitive tasks that they do, we get a real understanding of every different aspect of that business, right? And because of my experience in marketing, because of my experience in business development, this includes things like how do they go about building out their lists, how do they go about reaching out to those people, what are their sales processes, what are their business development processes, what are their marketing processes, what are their social media processes. While I'm not a social media guru, I've developed some quite nice social media processes that allow you to go from nothing to a nice bank of content to being able to post out consistently using a small team, right? And using AI and using all of these other tools. And essentially we look at all of that aspect and then we put together a detailed plan from how they can go where they are now and then integrate technology into what they do that they really do use every aspect of it. And if they've already got some tools there, we'll go, right, well, we need to figure out how we best use those, how they're going to integrate, how they're going to speak to each other. And then we create that plan and we go, right, so these are the tools that you're going to need. This is the workflow that you're going to need to develop. This is what you need to do to develop that workflow. This is what we're going to do for you, right? So we're going to build out things like any of the spreadsheets that they might use. We've got specific tools rather than normal spreadsheets. We've got other tools that we can use that make it a lot easier to manage that because spreadsheets get very messy. We can help them develop their CRM and connect it to all of their other tools. So where they might have spent 20 minutes on one particular client doing XYZ, creating documentation, they then actually automate the majority of that. And each client might take 20 minutes initially, and onboarding them then goes down to 5 minutes per client. So that's kind of the aspect. And then what I see over time is as we develop that process, as we develop that shadowing, I expect that we'll be able to create tools and AI that can shadow. Right, I expect in time that there will be an AI that we can put on their machine that will shadow what they do and then come back with a report and say, these are the things that they do. This is how we can automate some of those processes, right? So eventually it will be that, which I think, we're not probably not a million miles away from, right? So it's kind of one of the aspects of it that I would expect in time to dive into.
The progress that we've made in that field for the last 6 months, you just can't extrapolate it to a year because you just got no idea whether you're on where that next stage of that particular journey and where the glass ceilings are and where it's going to get broken and where we're going to get. I think that's where the real opportunity is, staying abreast of that technology. Yeah. Absolutely there. I'll just finish off with a few personal questions, if you don't mind. Your last recent box set or film that you would recommend?
Oh, blimey. Wow. So what have I just done? So I can be a bit of a fiend, right? I get quite addicted to series. So when I watch one, I watch it obsessively until it's done. But I've just done one on Apple, which is a bit dark. So it depends what you're into, which is called Servant, which is quite twisted, but I was quite into it. And then some of the other ones that I'm big on is like, I quite like American Horror Story. And then Black Mirror has always been. So all of these are very, very dark. But yeah, so they're probably the ones that I've done most recently.
Okay. Last book you read that you kind of remember?
Yeah, so I am very, very big on, I do a lot of audiobooks, and the tip that I give to people, the two tips that I give, one of which I learned from one of the books, is read the book with the intent to teach someone. And the second that you get the opportunity to teach someone that book, bloody well teach them what you've learned, because they're going to get value from it and you're going to cement that information. And the other thing I do is I create a board on ClickUp, and then I put the titles of all of the books, and then I try and put a little bit that I've learned from each one of those in each one of those tasks, because then it helps me remember those bits. I'm not perfect at it, but I'm getting there. But the books that I remember reading most recently, like Stephen Bartlett's Diary of a CEO, was absolutely brilliant. Some of the insights in there were very, very good. There's a guy called Jim Collins who's written Good to Great, Great by Choice, How the Mighty Fall. Those three books were just outstanding. Like the concepts in those are absolutely brilliant. They have stuck with me and will genuinely have a significant impact into how I build my own companies. And then actually at the moment I'm reading Lessons for the 21st Century. And again, the reason I bring those up, while they're not in my topic, and this is the other thing, is I think it's important to read books that are not always in your area of expertise. For two reasons. You're expanding your knowledge, you're rewiring your brain a little bit there, but you'd be surprised the things that you can learn about your own industry when you learn about other industries. So when you're in sales, if you learn about marketing, that opens real amazing insights into some of the sales and business development that you do.
A meal that you would like on your birthday?
If I sat down and there was the option for it, I'd probably have a fish dish. So I'd probably have like some sea bass, halibut, or if it was a particularly good place, I'd probably do prawns.
Finally, where can they find you? How can they reach out to you? How can they get involved in BSIB, that kind of stuff?
Best starting business you can get by bsib.uk. So you can find us on there, which will have all of our information in there, and you can find me through LinkedIn. If you have any questions about it, or if there's anything that anybody needed to know, you can feel free to get me at Matt with one T at bsib.uk, and that will come directly through to me.
Thank you very much for your time, Matthew. It's been really good.
Yeah, no, it has been good. You know what? Before we do go, I just feel like I want to touch on this, right? Because we spoke about it a moment ago and we were very much in the AI, and we don't know what's going to happen in a year's time and things like that. I want to touch on this because I want to remove the scary part of it, right? Because lots of people are scared of AI. And I did have a conversation not long ago where I mentioned I was in it, and the person was very much like, oh, the AI overlords and, but I think generally I tend to win people over because if we move away from it and we don't educate ourselves on it, that's where the problem comes, right? That's because if we don't educate ourselves, then other people get to use it for their benefit and not our own benefit. Whereas if we educate ourselves, we can use it for our benefit and the better of humankind, the betterment of humankind. And that's why I believe if we lean into it, if we learn about how to use it, if I can help educate everybody that comes through BSIB on the basics and how they can use it to better their lives and the people that surround them, and if we talk to it with manners and all the rest of it, because it's going to get pretty smart as it goes on, right? Let's be polite to the AI. But it's important to remember, lean into it, learn about it, learn how we can use it and how we can use it for good, because AI is not inherently evil. Yeah, because AI is AI. It's the same as the internet. The internet's not evil. It's about how you use it. And that leads me to the other point is there's this thing that called the singularity, right? And they call the singularity is the point where we don't know what's going to happen after that point, right? That's all the singularity is. And when I first heard people talking about it, I dove into it a little bit, not loads, because everyone's like, oh, it will be the singularity in a few years and then AI will be smarter than us and no one's going to know, blah, blah, blah. But you know what, to be honest with you, one of the books I was reading, they were saying that actually we've had singularities before. No one knew what was going to happen when the internet was released. That's a singularity. Because when the internet hit, no one could have really predicted exactly what was going to happen. No one would have predicted Facebook, right? So that's all happened. And equally, AI has been introduced. I think in so many ways, we've already hit a singularity because no one can really know what's going to happen from this point onwards with AI. And the best thing we can do is educate ourselves on it, because while there are jobs that AI might be able to benefit and help and make easier, it's not AI taking your job. If that's the fear that you have, it would be someone using AI, right? It's understanding it. So it's not AI, it's someone using AI, right? And then as it develops, what you'll find is rather than those jobs that nobody actually really wants to do in a lot of cases, they'll be taken on by AI. More different types of jobs will become available, things that we didn't expect. There'll be new jobs that nobody really could have predicted that become available that we can learn about. And it gives us an opportunity to continually enhance ourselves and our learning and so on and so on. So yeah, just wanted to go back to that just because the singularity popped into my head and I just wanted to,
Great finish to that. Thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated.
We're so lucky to have had this conversation to listen to. It was really difficult to edit as Matt was passionate about everything he does and was so generous in offering his insights, workflows and tips on how to get more from your day and your marketing strategy. I think it was an interesting choice to like Black Mirror, a show about a dystopian technological future. So on that note, good luck with the AI guys there, Matt. So there we have it, another episode of the Interwoven podcast is done, and what a ride it's been. This time around the theme seems to have been about the power of communication and the power that your story has. Just a quick mention, if you want to be on the podcast and tell the people of our region about your business, if you want to have a community that supports you, if you want a place to learn and develop as a business owner, then simply join our free community by visiting wearetheweave.co.uk. I've been Adam Roxby, Director of Communications, and I will look forward to seeing you in the community.